Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Planning a Successful Pet Event with Nancy Hassel of American Pet Professionals. This webinar is part of a series of programs offered by the Global Pet Expo Academy and Pet Store Pro, which are two programs committed to retailer education. Just a quick housekeeping item, you can submit questions. You should be able to see a box where you can do so. Feel free to submit those questions throughout the program, and Nancy will answer those however she can. So I'm going to go ahead and turn things over now to our presenter. So take it away, Nancy.
Thanks, Marcy. Hi, everybody. To take some information and notes. And again, like Marcy said, if you have questions, pop your questions in as we go. And you can also chat in the chat box. So either of those two spots. So if you can hear me, pop in a yes in the chat box. I would love to make sure that you guys can hear me. And again, if you don't have any questions, awesome. Thanks for answering. If you have questions, don't be shy, pop them in as we go. I will ask you guys as we go, do you have any questions? And also stay on to the end of the webinar where I'm going to tell you how you can get additional resources for your successful pet event. So just a quick intro, and I'll try to go fast, is I am Nancy Hassel. I'm the president and founder of American Pet Professionals, which is a business, networking, educational, and multimedia organization for the pet industry, which I established in February of 2009. And we have members all over the country from all areas of the pet industry. And event planning is something that I've been doing since we started. And to date, I've hosted and co-hosted well over 600 events for pet consumer-facing events, meaning for pet retailers, anybody that is just directly to the pet consumer, and then for events for pet professionals. And this actual slide here, this number should probably say over 1,000. I really haven't counted, but I guesstimate I've attended over 500 different types of pet events as a guest, attendee, media, etc. in the last decade. So it's been quite a journey in the pet event realm. I'm just going to take a second. My slide is going nice and slow to advance. There we go. So a few of the examples that I have hosted of different kinds of pet events are grand opening weekends for different pet retail stores where we had all kinds of events happening at the retail store. Gala black tie events for rescue organizations at a retail and dog training facility. Ask the Vet events in multiple locations over a 3-year period. I created and hosted my own responsible dog ownership program, and we taught 2,500 people over 5 years. Business-to-business trade shows in New York City that we have every May. Organized yappy hours multiple times, a blog tour celebration at retail stores, dog training facilities, grooming shops, etc. Pet parades hosted at retail stores, helped with a major dock diving event for a retailer, seasonal events. You guys get the gist. I've also helped promote and participate in expos for both consumers and pet trade shows across the country. Another thing that I started back in 2008 was our pet events newsletter, and some of you may get that, and it goes out to 12,000, oh, that number's off, 12,500 people every single Wednesday. So you could say that pet events are definitely part of my DNA, and this is just a very small sampling of pictures of different pet events that we've hosted and co-hosted over the year. So I have a question for you guys. How many people in this webinar have hosted successful pet events? Pop a yes in the chat or the question section and let me know if you've hosted an event or if it's the first time that you've hosted an event. I would love to know from you guys. And then if you haven't hosted an event, first, what has held you back in hosting an event? Maybe you're brand new to retail or the pet industry. Let me know as we go what it is that you're interested in learning about, that you're new to hosting events. Again, if you're hosting your own event for the first time, let us know that as well in the chat section or the question section. Okay, so let's get started. During this webinar, we will cover creating your pet event, planning your pet event, promoting your pet event, and hosting your pet event. There's going to be a lot of information again, so make sure you have a pen and paper, notepad, or computer, iPad, whatever you take notes on, ready. So when you are creating your pet event, we're jumping right in, there's a lot of questions that you should ask yourself and your team for the pet event. The first should be, why do you want to host a pet event? Is it to bring in new customers, to grow your business, to help an local animal rescue, to get press and media attention about your pet store, to connect with more pet parents in your community? You can fill in the blank. It's really important to write down and ask these questions to yourself, because it will give you a focus as to why you want to host the pet event. And it'll help you as you're creating the pet event as you go along. Another question you want to ask is, what is going to be your ROI, your return on investment, on hosting the event? You want to figure out or estimate or guesstimate what you will spend to host that first event or the seasonal event that you host each year. Hopefully, if you're hosting events, you're already doing that. What will you want to bring in monetarily? More new customers, more awareness of your location, potential press and promotion you get from hosting an event for your business. All of those different things are return on investment, advertising, promotion. What is it that you're really focused on getting? So you want to make sure that you're writing that list down, figuring out, setting those goals for your return on investment on hosting an event, because some events can be costly, as some of you might know. You also want to ask yourself, what kind of event do you want to host, right? We might have these grandiose ideas of events that you want to host at your store, but maybe you don't have the size or the capabilities to do it. Of course, I'm going to show you some slides coming up that I think that bust that myth. But if you want to do that, think about what will be good for your pet retail store. Be creative. I can't stress the be creative part enough, because we see a lot of similar events. As I mentioned earlier, I send out the pet events newsletter weekly, and I see a lot of the same events, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but I love when I see new, different, creative types of events that are happening. That makes me really excited. So what type of event can you do at your location that's going to tie into your retail brand? You can brainstorm with your staff to come up with ideas. You'd be surprised what your staff might actually think, hey, this would be a great idea. You might be too busy running your business coming up with creative ideas. You can even ask your customers too, hey, if we had an event here, what would you like to attend? They might give you some different and good ideas as well. The other question you want to ask is, what kind and size of event can you host? Again, I was saying earlier, don't let the size of your store limit what you can do. I think people are thinking, oh, we can only fit about 30 people in our store, so we should only do that. I'm going to show you the next slide. This is about maybe 150 to 200 people at a annual Halloween parade that I usually go to, that my friend that owns a store, and her store is probably the tiniest pet store in America, and I am not exaggerating. If there's 3 people in the store, it is crowded. It is super, super tiny, and it is called Little Lucy's Pet Boutique. And every year she started hosting a pet Halloween parade to benefit a local animal rescue, and she rotates the rescue each year. And I think she was the first one in the area to really host a well-done event. They parade through the town, and she does this every year. It's gotten so big that the parade is now moved across the street to the park, and then she has everybody come back to her store afterwards. So this is a really good example of, even if you think your store is too small or you're limited on space, you don't necessarily have to do it inside. And that's my dog Cody at the event. So depending on where you're located, many areas these days are chock full of pet events happening, if you haven't noticed. So before you pick out a date for your event, you want to research in your area who might be having a pet event in the next 3 to 6 months, or even within the next year if you're thinking of a bigger event. And why would you want to research that? Because there might be some established events already happening that you don't necessarily want to compete with if they are not too far from you. A perfect example of this was actually last fall. An event that I always go to was actually somebody else was having another event. It was actually the exact same type of event the same day, and they're very close to each other, and I was kind of torn as to which event I could go to, because I like to support both. It was both animal rescue organizations. I ended up finding out afterwards that the event was limited because of the space that they were starting it at. So they didn't mean to do it on the same day, but it had everybody questioning, why would they do that on the same day? Which event are you going to go to? So I'm sure the bigger event had little less people because the same supporters were at the other event. So you really want to do that research. And of course, you can research on Google, on Facebook, on Eventbrite, on any other platform, social media, Instagram. You can look all different places to find out your local newspaper. But as you're doing your research, do not let what you're seeing other pet businesses are doing deter you. Use the information to start creating your own event. But here's the catch, don't copy their event, right? You don't want to do the same kind of event that somebody else is doing locally nearby. You want to stand out. You want your business to stand out and your event to be unique and creative and different. And there's many different ways to come up with those creative ideas. So one thing is, can you piggyback an event that is happening near you? For example, maybe your town is having a festival that you can have a kickoff to the festival the evening before to tie into the theme. That could be a lot of fun. There's a maritime festival here on Long Island where I live every fall, and it's a weekend long event. So if you had a pet boutique in that area, you could have a fully decked out, themed out, pun intended, get it guys, decked out, event for maritime. And you could do all of that and really piggyback on it and kick it off. And I'm sure if you cross promote it with the event promoters of the weekend, it would really be a fun way to kick off that event at your store. If you guys have any questions as I'm going, please don't be shy. Ask, ask, ask. So again, what can you do that's new, unique, and different to your location, your store, your brand? And who can you cross promote with? Is there somebody that maybe they need some help with their store that maybe isn't pet related? Or maybe there's a dog trainer that's trying to cross promote, or an animal rescue that's trying to cross promote. Anything along those lines, just make sure that when you're cross promoting with another business that you guys are doing equal amount of work, that you're not the only one doing all the cross promotion. And think outside the box a bit when it comes to your event. So common themes that you'll see are yappy hours or happy hours, adoption days, grand openings, pet costume contests, which we're in October now hosting this webinar, and that's going to be a big thing coming up. Dog training Q&A, pet expos, inside, outside. So you want to start to think outside the box. Now, there's nothing wrong with any of those ideas. Those are all great ways to get started, to get people to your store. But again, coming up with a different new creative idea within your pet business is really going to help you get noticed. So if you're looking for inspiration and you see something maybe a non-pet business is doing, look at how they're doing it. Look outside the pet industry for additional inspiration. What is a non-pet business doing near you that you can do and transform into something similar for your pet retail store or an event? So a lot of people might be on Instagram these days. You might want to go to Instagram and look at all the stores that are in your area or, within a 50-mile radius that are not pet stores, and see what they're doing that's different and unique that can inspire something from you. It's an easy way if you're commuting or if you're waiting for something and you're on Instagram and you're looking through, instead of just scrolling, do a little research. Okay, so once you have decided what kind of event you want to host, it's time to pick out a date for your event. So if you guys have any questions, again, please don't be shy. I would love to answer for you. We could just answer at the end if you want. So when you pick out a date, you want to give yourself and your staff at least 3 months to plan your event. The longer, the better, depending on how big your event is. Throwing together an event with a little preparation, it's going to show, and it's not going to show in a good way, and you want your event to shine. Now, don't get me wrong, I've seen people throw together pretty successful events the last minute, but maybe they would have had more people there, maybe they would have had more press coverage, maybe they would have had more social media coverage if they gave at least 3 months to plan an event. And I'm saying 3 months for a smaller event. If you're planning a really big event or an annual event, you really want to give yourself 6 months to a year to plan the event properly. So you've done your research, you've decided on a date or an event type theme, picked out a date for your incredible pet event, and you're going to host, and you're ready to begin planning your event. So planning and promoting for this are basically at the same, when you're planning and promoting your event, it's basically at the same time, and it goes side by side as you proceed. But for this webinar, we're going to discuss planning first, then promoting. So as you're planning your event, of course, you want to make a list. What kind of supplies are you going to need, if any, for your event? Create a checklist of what you will need and stay organized. Do you need to get samples and giveaways and goodie bags and all of that stuff that people might be looking for? If you're not going to give any of that stuff, are you going to do any percentage off? Are there going to be any kind of things that you need to order ahead of time, any signage, anything ahead of time? You want to start making a list while you're planning and really, really stay on top of it and be organized. Nothing worse than waiting to the last minute and then realizing you don't have promotional materials ready, or the printer can't get them to you in time, or they got lost in shipping. So do as much as you can ahead of time. And of course, do you need to create graphics or promotional materials? You have to figure out what kind of promotional materials are you going to have. Are you going to have flyers? Are you going to have signs made up? Are you going to have those corrugated signs that you put into the lawn? Like, what kind of stuff do you need? So you have to really think about all the different things, all the different ways that you're going to be planning ahead when it comes to promotional materials. Another question you want to ask is, how many people do you want to attend? Right? So again, I talked about Little Lucy's before, and she only has a tiny little store, but she has 200 people at her event. So if you're thinking we really just can only do our event inside, how much room do you have at your location? Where are you hosting it for pets and people? And I'll tell you a little funny story. We have an event, a B2B event every year in New York City, and we invite some of our pet influencer friends. And a lot of them like to bring their pets in strollers, some of their little dogs in strollers or their cats in strollers, sometimes a pig in a stroller. And if their space is small, we had to plan out when certain people could come because we knew they would have so many dog strollers or pet strollers with them, and it would take up a lot of space and it would get in the way. So if you have those kind of things, it might sound crazy, but if you have those kind of things, or those people that are coming that you know are going to come with strollers and you're inside, you want to think about that. Maybe you have to move a display out of the way if you're having a bigger event at your store. You also want to ask or figure out how many volunteers or staff are you going to need the day of the event. I always think it's better to have 1 or 2 extra people, even if they don't have a huge amount of work to do. You always are going to need an extra set of hands, an extra person to go do something, go get something you forgot the day of. So you have to figure out how many people that you're going to need. And then if your event's inside or outside, if it is outside, do you have a rain date? This seems like the most simple thing in the world. If it's outside, there's a rain date. I can't tell you how many events, pet and non-pet, I see that there's nothing on the promotional materials of a rain date. And then you have to go and ask, is there a rain date? Is this happening? What's going on? You don't want to be put in that position. So if you have a rain date, make sure you mention it on all of your promotional materials, event listings on social media. If you send out a press release, anything, the rain date should be listed, so you don't have to be answering people that, and clearly listed. And hopefully it won't rain, but there was an event I went to recently that it downpoured, and so it was the following weekend, but their signage clearly said rain date. Okay, here's another one. So I know a lot of retailers rent from a landlord to have their store. Do you have permission from your landlord and or your town or city to host a pet event at your location? You might be surprised by this. Some different towns, cities, villages have different ordinances on, what you can do within your store, or if you're doing it on the sidewalk outside of your store. So you may have to get permission. You may have to file for a permit. So you want to make sure you have all those ducks in a row, because you do not want to be shut down the day before your event when people are telling you we're all coming, because the town comes and tells you can't do it, or your landlord tells you can't do it. So make sure you have permission from your town, your landlord, city, whatever it is that you're doing. And I know a lot of people might not do this and they'll just go forward and doing it. And yes, you can probably get away with it, but I think that's risky. I would rather have you do it the proper way to make sure that you don't have any issues the day of the event. The other thing is, does your business insurance cover events at your store? What does your limited liability say? What can you actually do under that umbrella? So you want to make sure you talk to your insurance agent. You might need additional insurance coverage while hosting events at your location. And if you are having a adopt-a-thon type of event where there's an animal rescue coming and they're bringing pets with you, you should always ask them to bring additionally insured or proof of their insurance with them. Because if they're bringing live animals to your event and something, God forbid, happens, you want to make sure that you're covered. So that's something to think about. It's usually not that big of a deal. I work with a lot of pet expos that have vendors, up to 100, 200 vendors, and they all just bring their own insurance. They name the facility additionally insured. And usually your insurance company is not going to charge you for that, for a one-time, one-off thing. Another thing is, if you're planning on serving alcohol at your event, you want to be very careful in how you're promoting it. There's a lot of laws about liquor licensing, and you definitely want to do your research on this one. We had a few years ago a lady that was doing art exhibits and promoting like crazy that there was alcohol at her event, and all of her events got shut down, and she got into a lot of trouble because she was serving alcohol. So you want to make sure you look at that. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer afterwards. We never talk about promoting alcohol at events, just an FYI. So if you're hosting an event in your location, if you have people bringing in pets to enjoy the event, it is such a good idea to have someone else help you with your customers. Meaning have one or two of your staff, if you're lucky enough to have enough staff, ring up customers, answer customer questions, because you're still going to get customers if you're hosting the event the day that, you know, while you're open. Shopping, they might come in, they just need to get a bag of dog food. They don't want to have to suddenly be pulling you away from your event hosting to tend to the customers, because that's going to stress you out, probably make you a little more frazzled. So you want to make sure that you absolutely have somebody that's helping you out. I see a bunch of questions, guys, so I'm going to get to some questions in a few minutes. Another thing is hire a dog trainer to work the event, to watch for any aggressive, reactive, or nervous dogs. A dog trainer that is stellar at reading dog body language. And not somebody that's just trying to break into their dog training career. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but you want somebody that's helpful and kind, and a trainer that is going to understand what's going on and be very nice to your guests, because again, that reflects on your business. So are you planning, as you're planning your event, create a binder or a Google document that you can go back to daily to make sure you are checking off all of the things that you need to do in advance of the event to have it go smoothly. Staying organized and having someone help you will make a much better planning process. And that brings us to promoting, but I'm going to get to a couple of questions that I'm just seeing. So I apologize, the screen is very small for that. So let's see, is anybody have questions? Yes, it's being recorded. I'm just seeing you guys hosted 2 events, a pop-up. Okay, need help on promoting. We'll be hosting a grand opening for a new daycare facility next month. That's awesome, congratulations. Beginner with Pet Arena, hosted yappy hours at a pet and a pet expo. Okay, guys, so if you have questions, pop them in there. I'm gonna keep going through promoting. And I'm probably like flying through this, so I hope you guys have a lot of questions afterwards. Okay, so promoting your pet event is super important for you guys to have a successful pet event, correct? So if you can afford to hire a PR person to promote your event to the media, PR meaning public relations professional, somebody that's gonna promote your event to the media, or at least just for your first event, this is really going to help you with getting many more eyes in seeing your upcoming event. And it's also actually going to bring you into the media's attention, right? You're going to be on their radar, whether you're doing PR yourself for your event or you hired somebody. Now they're going to come back to you time and time and time again after your event with questions. This has happened so many times with my clients, with my members, with people I know that got media coverage, and they just keep getting it because the press is aware of what they're doing. So if you do not have the budget to hire somebody, we totally get that, but at least let your local media know about the event in advance if you don't have the budget. So I just want to give you a little example, a dock diving event that I worked on PR for a retail client about a year ago resulted in 36 press hits major newspaper cover, 3-page article coverage, national magazines, articles in local newspapers, blogs, and so on. And the day of the event, we had 4 TV stations at the event. We had additional video coverage from other bloggers that brought video, and then a ton of press after the event. Let me tell you, this event was packed. It was crazy crowded, and in every single newspaper, this was our main newspaper. They had the cover, 3-page article. This was island-wide for Long Island, but then there was all kinds of other press coverage as well. So the power of the media for your event can really, really help your business. So again, whether you hire a PR person or alert the media yourself, you want to make sure that you keep track of any potential press hits. So how are you going to do that? Very simple. If you don't know what a Google alert is, go onto Google and type in Google alert in the Google search bar, and it'll populate the Google alert. And then you can create Google alerts for anything. And this is good to do even just for your business in general. And you can put a Google alert for your name, your business name, the event name that you're doing, and any time that you are potentially listed in the media, you will get an email alert from Google letting you know that your name might be in there. Now, sometimes there's similar names and you might see some similar things, but if you're really proactively promoting your event to the media and you're getting press hits, you're going to get a Google alert once you set it up, and then you can share all those press hits on social media, and you can thank the media also and tag them. They'll be happy to see that. Other places that you can promote your event is Eventbrite. You can look up pet events, it's searchable by city. You could do, if you're doing a free event, it's another area that you can pop your event in on there without charging, and Eventbrite will list it. So that's a really fun, easy way to pop your name out there in a different avenue that people are actually searching on. Facebook event invite, right? That's a no-brainer. Make sure you have a direct link where people can purchase tickets if you are selling tickets, or where they can register within that Facebook event invite. And then if you're on Twitter, you can schedule tweets ahead of time about your event. You don't have to worry about that every day, making sure that it's on Twitter. And you can do that natively on Twitter and schedule stuff. So you don't have to invest in any kind of software if you don't already have it. And then Instagram, right? Everybody's on Instagram now. So you could do it a few different ways. You can create a static post, which is on your feed about your event. You can go into your Instagram stories and start promoting the event ahead of time, a couple of weeks out, like, hey guys, we have this really great event. You can go into the link in our bio, click on there, learn more, really start pumping up the event on any of the social media that you're doing. You could do a behind the scenes or a BTS as you're prepping for the event. Give them a little sneak peek. People love to see behind the scenes. And then you could do a live video the night before your event starts, and even during the event, letting people know, like, hey, check it out, our event, we're getting ready. I do all of these for every single event that I do. So Instagram is a fun way to do it, and it's really interactive. If you have an email database, of course, you want to put together an email blast and let people know. If you do a monthly start and you're doing it 3 months from now, start letting people know in 3 months, hey, we're having this event coming up. Here's all the information. Have a clickable graphic so people can click and go to your website or to your Facebook page or to wherever you want to send people, that they can find out more information about the event. And do that in each newsletter as you lead up to your event. And then here's another one. I know this sounds crazy, but old-fashioned flyers, they work. And I do this for a lot of events I'm doing as well. So you can have nice quality flyers printed, or if you're on a budget and you want to just get some colored paper, tied into the theme for your branding, or maybe the theme for your logo, or if you have an animal rescue organization that you're working with, maybe they have specific colors. And then have your event printed on that. I personally like white flyers with colorful printing, but that can get expensive. And then, of course, even a postcard mailing can be really a great way to reach out to people if you have a lot of actual email addresses, or mailing addresses. So it depends on the size of your event. I do that for one big event that I do a year. We send out about 1,000 postcards, and it helps because we track it when people register. We have an area where people can say, where did you hear about this event? Social media, online, newspaper, postcard mailing. So then we know, how many people say that. And it's important to track that because then you know what to do for the next year, what worked, what didn't work. So if you're not that creative with designing any graphics or any flyers or anything, a website that is super easy to use and is free and will help you look really professional is canva.com for graphics. So if you guys are not on Canva, or if you know somebody that likes to create stuff like that, if you can't hire a graphic designer, go to canva.com. It's really, really a great thing to use. And then stock photos. If you're brand new and you don't have any photos of past or previous events, stock photos is a great way. You could get some really high quality, high resolution photos. However, that won't work for the media. That's just for your promotional. They're not going to want stock photos. But if you've hosted events in the past and you have photos for previous events, that could work really well with your promotion. So if you want to use those, if it's the same type of event, or maybe you do an annual event or planning on doing an annual event, you can use those photos from previous events. And that brings us to hosting. Does anybody have any questions about promoting? Please don't be shy. I'll be happy to answer before we jump into hosting. And can you guys still hear me? Hey, you guys might know this dog on the left. That's Tinkerbell the dog. She's a social media star. Okay. I don't see any questions yet. Wait, hold on. We might have a couple. Awesome. Okay. Sure. Okay. So somebody asked, and this is a good question, what about insurance for hosting at a public park? Absolutely. So you have to find out from the park if it's a state park, a county park, if it's a privately held park. They'll usually tell you what kind of insurance that they would need. If you're hosting a bigger event where you're having multiple vendors, more than likely they're all going to have to provide their own certificate of insurance naming the park additionally insured. But that's pretty simple. A lot of parks will have that information on their website. If it's not on their website, you could always just call and ask and find out who is their event person. But it is really important. Okay, so hosting your event. Again, if you guys have any other questions, please post them. I'm happy to answer. Borough Township. Yeah, so just ask Allison, ask them from the town, contact the town, contact your town's parks department, not parks department, and they'll tell you. Okay, so that's the day of the event. You want to be organized ahead of time, as I've said throughout this whole thing. So the day is not a mad rush of stress, right? How many people here, put a yes in the comment, are getting everything ready the night before? I am guilty, but I work well under pressure, but I'm still organized about it. So just know that staying organized is really going to help you. If you have a team helping you, be sure that they are there on time and stress the importance of this. If you have somebody that you know is always somewhat late, tell them to come earlier. Tell them instead of 2 o'clock, the event starts at 1 o'clock. I see some yeses from my question before. So no matter if it's a big event or a small event, being organized and not stressed and ready to greet your guests is super important, right? You want to have fun. Have your team ready to greet guests and attendees and have them well versed in what they are doing, meaning that they know what their role is at the event. Don't have any ego problems with different employees of, asking different types of like, oh, I'm supposed to do this or I was supposed to do that. Like, make sure that they know what their role is. And so it really makes everybody have a better event. And it's going to reflect on your establishment. I only see the questions. So I'm sorry, I'm just answering a couple questions. What if it rains on your date and your rain date? Well, then you probably have to postpone and reschedule, unfortunately. Hopefully that won't happen. And then hopefully you'll have a good way to connect with everybody that was registered ahead of time to come to the event. So you can let them know because it's rained twice, you're going to have it on this date now. Okay, so if you have any volunteers at your event, if you have a team of volunteers, have a lead person that they can go to. That I can't stress that enough. So they're not just going to you for every question. So if you have an employee that works directly under you, or if you're going to have people the day of the event come, make sure that you have somebody that is going to be a lead person that knows every last detail of the event, so they're not just running to you, because it's not fun to be the person trying to greet everybody and have a stress-free event, and then everybody's coming to you with their questions or problems. It's probably going to happen anyway, but if you have a lead person, it might be a good buffer for you. Same for your employees if you don't have volunteers. And a lot of people bring in volunteers, friends, family members for the day of the event. So that's why I'm saying have a lead person. And then again, remember, anyone working at your event is reflecting on your business. So you want to make sure you have happy, cheerful volunteers. And if you are having an event that people are being checked in at, make sure the people that are greeting people as they come in are the best people for that position, and not somebody that's miserable or doesn't want to be there or doesn't want to be doing that, because that is going to reflect on you. That has happened at an event one of my clients was hosting. They put the wrong people at the front desk, and then people were coming over to me that came to the event to support, complaining. And I had nothing to do with it. So you want to make sure you have happy, cheerful front desk people. I can't stress that enough. And they should all know what they're assigned to. So I'm assigned to the front desk, I'm checking people in, I'm the swag bag, handout, whatever the task is, they should know exactly what the event is they're doing. And you know, the first event is always going to be trial and error. You will have stuff during the event that's not going to work out perfectly, you know, the way you think you wanted to, or things are going to happen. And that's okay. It's all a learning process, but the more planning ahead of time and more structure that you have while you're hosting the event is really going to help you. Okay, so if your event is outdoors, make sure there are plenty of water bowls, pickup bags, and shaded areas for pets. I can't stress this part enough. I can't tell you how many pet events outside in the blazing hot sun and heat I've been to where there were not enough bowls with water in them and clean, fresh water on a consistent basis. I actually was at an event not too long ago, and that was somebody's sole job, was making sure the water bowls were filled with water on a regular basis, and they were running around filling the bowls up. It was amazing. So make sure that that is never an issue. Shaded areas, make sure that you have tents popped up and secured and seats for people to sit in if you're doing outside, you know, because dogs get hot. I don't know where you guys are living, but in the Northeast, it's been brutally hot here all summer. It's still hot out. And you want to make sure that people attending your events and the pets that they are bringing with them have an area to go that is shaded. And here's another one: encourage people not to bring their dogs on retractable leashes to events. We had an event where somebody actually had pre-printed leashes, logoed leashes with their retail store name on it, and then anybody that came with a retractable, they had somebody assigned to ask and say, could you please pop your dog on this 6-foot free leash that we're giving you for the time that you're at the event, because a lot of people don't lock their dogs in place on a retractable leash. Dogs are zipped out 15 feet away, running up into other dog spaces. You guys have hopefully, you know, not had this happen at your events, but I'm sure you've seen it. And most people are pretty compliant if you ask them that, and they're getting a free leash out of it. So that is something that is a huge pet peeve of mine, because it could be a problem if something happened with tripping somebody falling down in your venue, tripping over the leash, dogs getting tangled in each other. So make sure you get rid of those leashes, give them a good leash. At the very least, ask them to lock their dogs in. And another thing you can do is partner with a waste pickup company to be on site to take care of this, whether it's in your store, at an venue, at a park, whatever. There's a lot of really fantastic pooper scooper companies out there, and that'll help you with if there's a lot of dogs having accidents at your event. So the day of the event, basics: greet everyone who attends with a smile, right? Be available to answer questions from your attendees. You are the point person. Thank everyone for coming as they come in, and make sure that your store is courteous to everyone who attends, your store employees. And you want your business to look its best, right? That's why one of the reasons you're hosting an event. Another thing is, if you're having an event, if you have different schedules happening or different events happening the day of, maybe you're doing a pet costume contest or the waggiest tail contest or any of those type of things, and it's lotted out in different times, you want to make sure that you have that schedule posted at the front of the event on a sign. Get a sign printed, here's the schedule. You could also give them, flyers for that as well as they walk in. Hand them a scheduled printed flyer. Make sure that they have that, because then they know and they're not saying, when is this happening? When's the next thing happening? And even though you have a schedule posted, you gave them a flyer with what's happening, if you can make announcements, if you have a microphone, if it's a bigger event, if you're outside, hey everybody, in 10 minutes we're going to get started for the waggiest tail contest, or anybody that's entered, you know what I'm talking about. But you'd be surprised at some events, they don't do that, and people are standing around looking at each other, not knowing what's happening, and then you have people asking questions, and it's not run as smoothly. Okay, so here's one of my favorite tips is take pictures. This is one of my pictures that I took at a retail store. You can see people in the background of these adorable 4 golden retrievers. So I know this seems really obvious in today's day and age with people taking photos on their cell phone and everything, but I can tell you from 10 years of experience out of events, the busier and busier the event gets, you're going to forget, or you're not going to have time, or you're only going to get 1 or 2 photos. So that's going to be a real downfall when you're trying to promote the same event next year, or post on social and you look through and maybe some of the photos were blurry or they weren't that great. But if you take a lot of photos, or you hire somebody to take photos, guests are going to love to see their pets in pictures from your event, even if they took their own photos. Believe me, I know, because when I take photos at events, or we hire somebody to take photos at events, and we share it after the fact, the people that it's their dog, right? You love to have your own dog have a photo, see it at the event, you share it, right? So hire a photographer if you can. Usually it's not that expensive, or designate somebody to take really good pictures that can immediately be put on social media, or at least within the 24 hours of your event. Again, guests love to share. Vendors love to share, right? From their social platform, from your social platform, and that's going to bring more eyes to your business, the more ways that you do it. And with that, you want to be social. Create a hashtag, or ask them to tag you on Instagram or Facebook, and that can also be part of your signage. If you took a photo at our event, you can even create one of those Instagram cutout boards, or order one of those. If you took a picture at our event, tag us, here's a hashtag, let us know. We'll retweet it, we'll repost it on Instagram, we'll share it on Facebook, because all of that is going to bring people back to your business. So you want to make sure you have a good photographer. I can't stress enough hiring a photographer, but somebody that's going to give you turnaround within 24 hours, not a photographer that's going to tell you they're going to get the photos to you in 2 weeks and a Dropbox link. No, you want them tomorrow or tonight. And then do a live video on Instagram and Facebook at the beginning of your event. So you could do it right before you're about to start. You might have seen this done, but I see a lot of pet retailers don't actually do it because there's so many people or so many things that you're doing. So if you cannot do it, give your phone to one of your employees, one of the volunteers there that's very comfortable and going on camera and saying, hey, this is where we are. Tell them the name of the store. We could say, hey, we're at Little Lucy's today and we're doing the Halloween pet parade. Here's the address. We start at 1 hour. We hope you guys can come. Here's some of the baskets that we're giving away. And then at the beginning of the event, during the event, and more people are going to see, even if they couldn't make it to your store that day, they might have just heard about your store because of that. Okay, any other questions? We're almost at the end, you guys. So if you have any other questions, I have a few more slides here. Please pop them in the comment or the question section, and I will scroll down and answer. Here's a really great question, Allison. Do you have a guest sign in, a photo release? That you could have a sign in for a photo release if you're doing video coverage. The rule of thumb is really don't take pictures of children and post it on your social. Most people, if you're asking them, hey, we're going to take a photo and post it on Facebook, is that okay? If they say yes, then you're okay. If you're having a video crew there, you could always put a sign up that says TV coverage at this event is happening. And you could Google that. There's all kinds of signs that, and releases that you can look up. But I thought you were asking, do you have a guest sign in, which I think is super important. If people didn't sign up for your event online and you didn't capture their email, their information, how you can follow up with them, You could do it a couple of different ways. You can have a sign in when people arrive, say, hey, sign in, so we know what your name, your email, and your Instagram handle is, so we can tag you. You could do something like that. They'll probably be more willing to give out their Instagram. You really want their email address, but you could put that on there. You could also do a raffle and have the, instead of a phone number, just say, you know, pop your name and email address on here, and we're raffling this big basket of toys or whatever. And that's another way to capture. So if you guys have any other questions, okay. Oh boy. Lindsay asked, any advice on starting a dock diving event? If you're thinking about hosting it next summer, start today. That would be my one piece of advice. Dock diving events are really great. It does draw in a really big crowd. It's a lot of work. I wasn't in the full event planning part of it. I did give the advice and some tips and stuff that, you know, make sure this, make sure this, make sure this. When we were doing the dock diving event, I was really helping them with their doing the public relations for them. You know, you want to make sure that you have good liability insurance, that whichever dock diving company you ask, they will actually give you a lot of information. So I would find out from them, you know, whatever dock diving company, because there's a few different types of divisions. There's Dock Dogs, I think there's NAD and the AKC. There might be one other. Ask them, hey, we're thinking of hosting an event. What goes into this? Give us all the specifics. They might even have information on their website. It is a big undertaking though. And you do, I think, have to have like the fire department come and fill the pool the night before. So that's another thing, another factor. All right, guys, so keep popping those questions in. We have some time, and I have a few more slides, and I'm happy to answer more questions as we go. So after you've hosted the event, you're going to be exhausted, right? But don't nap just yet. This is something you definitely want to do. You want to get feedback. You want to get testimonials from attendees. If you know some good customers that were like, this event was fantastic, we loved it, or whoever you had there vendor-wise, make sure you get it in writing. Say, hey, would you like to submit a testimonial on our Facebook page? Or here's a form that you can fill out if you're thinking of any kind of online form. WooFoo, that's WUFOO.com, is a pretty easy online form to do all kinds of forms for registration and also for testimonials, or they can just send it to you in an email. But you want to make sure you get those testimonials, because that is going to really help if the next year you're having a bigger event. Maybe you're going to go after sponsors. Maybe you're going to go after more vendors. Whatever it is, having those testimonials from attendees and from your vendors, anybody that was involved in your event, you want to make sure you get that. And hopefully, as we were just saying, if you have their email address, send a thank you for attending. You'd be surprised how many business owners and rescues don't actually do this. They might say a thank you on social media, and that's great, but you know, make sure that you send an email out, and that's a way you can get some additional feedback. Ask them what they liked, what they didn't like, especially if it was a first-time event. You can use this feedback as you plan your next event, and that's really going to help you. But send a thank you to them and ask those questions and see if they'll give you a testimonial. And lastly, get feedback from your employees and anyone else who was involved with planning the event. So have a team meeting, a follow-up right after the event. Take notes on what worked and what didn't. So when you're having another event, you'll have something to look back on that you might have forgotten about and say, oh, that's right, that really didn't work out too well, because you have it written down after your team meetings. Have somebody take notes, put that into your Google Doc, into your binder, whatever it is that you're working on. So you have something to look back. I'm telling you, this info is going to help you out so much. We do that on all of our events. We've gotten so much feedback on our business-to-business events, on some pet consumer events, saying, what did you like? What did you didn't like? It actually changed the hours of an event, a bigger event that we host every year, because it was earlier in the day, and all of our attendees said we would love it if it was a little bit later in the day, so we changed the hours. So you never know what people are thinking unless you ask, right? Okay, so any other questions? We have a few more minutes, I believe, right, Marcy, to ask questions. And here's my contact info. And I mentioned in the beginning of this that if you guys are interested in having some pet event ideas, a PDF sent to you, just shoot me an email. That's my email right there, Nancy at American Pet Professionals, and I'll send something out to you in a few days on hosting different pet events or different pet event ideas. But if you guys have any questions, please feel free. I'm just going to leave this slide up for another minute or so. So if you want to take a screenshot of that or a picture with your phone so you have my contact info, by all means, I would love to hear from you if you have any other questions. And I hope I didn't go too fast trying to get you guys all the info.
Okay, well, Nancy, it sounds like maybe there's no more questions. Obviously, folks, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to Nancy directly with that information she provided. Just a reminder that all of this webinar and past webinars are posted online at globalpetexpo.org. Also a reminder that registration for Global Pet Expo is open, so be sure to visit the website and plan to attend, where Nancy will be returning as a speaker in 2019.
Woohoo!
And then finally, I just wanted to remind you, just because this is also hosted by Pet Store Pro, if you've never heard of or you haven't logged into Pet Store Pro in a while, you should definitely check it out. It's PetStorePro.com, and it is training for your store employees. It's completely free, and we'd love for you to check that out. So that's about all I have. Thank you, everyone, for participating today. I know everyone's very busy, and we appreciate your time that you took today on this webinar, and thank you, Nancy.
Thank you. Somebody did ask, can you post your email one more time? So I'm just going to pop that up there, and then we'll go to the last slide. Thank you guys so much, and thank you, Marcy.